we definitely can still see stuff, even though we are in the middle of the city. It's not going to be as good as if you go out to McDonald Observatory in West Texas, where we actually have very well-protected dark skies out there. But you can still see the majority. Actually, we can see all of the planets except Mercury, believe it or not. And Mercury isn't because of brightness, it's because it never gets high enough to get into this telescope. But we can actually see all of the other planets, including Uranus and Neptune, through this telescope. And I do occasionally show those. I actually started school here back in 1990, and then I stayed on working in the department, and I've been a full-time non-student employee now for 23 years. So you actually can kind of get a feel for two different eras of astronomy. If you come visit both of our telescopes, you can kind of get an idea for the older Romantic era if you see the Painter-Hall telescope, and then the more modern era of a computer-controlled telescope if you come visit the RLM telescope. So the Painter-Hall telescope was probably constructed at some time in the late 19th century and was originally on a home in Georgia, and then was returned to the company at one point and purchased by UT in the 1930s. And so that telescope is an antique. It has a 9-inch lens in it. And we know some parts of the telescope are from that original scope, and it actually is all run off a mechanical gear and weight system. So you actually wind up a little gear that drops and actually is the tracking system for the telescope. It's actually kind of a rarity now to find one that's all still mechanically run like that. The 16-inch telescope here at RLM is actually a reflecting telescope that uses mirrors, and it's actually a much newer, more modern type of design. It was purchased in the late 1970s and then had a significant upgrade in the 1990s. It's actually all electronically run through stepper motors and a gearing system that's tied to a computer that does all of the pointing. I deliberately use eyepieces and not some sort of an electronic detector that displays the image out on a screen, because I want people to actually be able to see these with their own eyes. We all look at screens all day now, and to be able to actually see this with your own eyes, I think is a really neat experience for a lot of people. About every 15 years, Mars gets particularly close to the Earth, and the last time they were really close together in 2003, it was a very well-publicized event. But this year, this August, it's going to get really close again. And I don't know if there's going to be the same hubbub about it that there was back in 2003, but I'm anticipating there will at least be some attention paid to it, so we're probably going to get a lot of people paying attention to that, and we'll definitely be looking at Mars, I'm guessing at least into sometime in the mid-fall of this year. So I think part of the greater mission at UT, of course, is not just to educate our students, but to share what we do with the greater public. Definitely in astronomy, there's a big push here to tell people what we do, in part what their tax money is paying for. There's never a lack of interest in space, I've noticed. I mean, people are always coming by the star parties, just random people from the general public say, yeah, I've always been interested in space. And so this is a chance for them to actually look through our telescopes and see the rings of Saturn or craters on the moon or something like that with their own eye. So I got kind of interested in space as a pretty young kid, and I started fiddling around with the telescope that I think had been in our garage. And I think it was my mom's actually originally, and started learning how to use it, probably when I was about 11 or 12 years old. Actually, it's funny because occasionally I'll have a kid come up and say, oh yeah, we've got a little scope at home and it was really neat to come up here. And a lot of times I'll tell them, yeah, I had a scope too when I was a kid and I got interested in it. And sometimes I'll be like exactly the age the kid was when I remember like observing a solar eclipse in 1994 or something like that. And I'll usually try to relate that experience to them and say, hey, and now I work here. And so who knows, there may be some kid on one of the field trips who eventually will take this job for me when I retire in a couple of decades or whatever it is.